Today I want to share with you some things that I've learned over my almost 30 years as an attorney that will be of benefit to you. I'm estate planning attorney Mike Smith with Smith Barid LLC, and I'm one half of the Estate Planning Guys. So over the last almost 30 years that I've been practicing law, I've seen a lot of things, I've learned a lot of things, and I just want to share with you some of the things that I've observed that can be helpful to you when you think about your estate planning. The first one is do it now. So a lot of times clients have a reaction to talking about death and taxes that is understandably negative. And it's very difficult to stay motivated to get your estate planning done. And so I've had the experience over the years, having a meeting with a client, they really understand they need to do this. They come up with some reason not to move forward right now. We've got a big trip coming up next week and we don't want to get started on this right now. I need to talk it over with X person, etc. And then after they leave our offices, we will follow up with them repeatedly by email, phone calls, etc., try and get them to schedule a follow-up appointment. And oftentimes they won't do that. And we've seen catastrophes that happen as a result of that. The fact of the matter is that none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. We've seen over the last few years with this COVID pandemic that the unexpected can happen. And you need to have a plan in place. So as soon as you have that itch of a thought in your mind that, maybe I need to have an estate plan, you need to get started on it and you need to complete it. Now, one thing that I think is a misunderstanding that people have is that their plan needs to be perfection. And the reality is that having some plan is better, 1,000 times better than having no plan at all. We've had clients who came in to do the planning, never completed it, and then we get a call from the family afterwards, after they've passed away, saying, hey, did they complete a will or a trust with you guys? And we're like, no, we're really sorry. We tried to impress upon them the importance of it, but unfortunately we could never get them back in the office to complete it. And what happens then is we have to file a probate that takes a lot longer than if we'd had a properly completed executed will or we'd had a trust in place. It's a special type of probate where we have to run ads in the newspaper to notify everybody about it, and there's some waiting periods that are a part of that process that make it a lot more difficult than if we had a will in place or we had a trust that set out exactly what was supposed to happen when that client passed away. So number one is do it now. As soon as you get the motivation to even make that phone call to an attorney, just say to yourself, I'm going to get this done. I'm not going to check the box until I have it completed. The second piece of information I'd like to share with you, second bit of advice tip I have for you, is be organized. So one of the things that's very difficult when someone passes away is to get your arms around all of the assets and information that's needed to handle the estate administration, whether that's a probate or a trust administration. We have found that clients who take the time to make a list of all their assets, the contact information for all the important people in their lives, like their CPA, their estate planning attorney, their financial advisor, their pastor, etc., the people that do that make it so much easier for their family to deal with when they pass away. There's a notebook that has all the information in it. The executor or the administrator of the trust can simply pick that up, look down that list, and make sure that all those contacts are made, the right people are contacted, and having a list of the assets that's current is very important. Because if I had a client who died and the trustee was administering his estate and we'd help that client gather things together and make sure all the assets were funded into the trust, but there were some things that he'd forgotten about. Didn't keep very good notes and he was just kind of disorganized, and there were some things he'd forgotten about. And so a few months after he passed away, the trustee discovered a stack of stock certificates that were hidden away in a drawer. And he brought those to us, and we tracked down the values of all those different stocks that our client had owned. And it turned out that it was about $500,000 worth of stock that he just simply forgotten about because he was so disorganized. And so that meant that because it had not been put into the trust, we had to do a probate in order to get that stock into the trust. So it's very important that you keep an accurate list of all your assets so that your trustee or your executor can find those things and get control over them. And secondly, it's important because if something's forgotten about, it can really throw a monkey wrench into everything. So be organized is a really important tip that I can give you. The third thing that I want to share with you today is to use some sort of online document storage. Now, in our firm, we use something called DocuBank, and they give you a card that looks like this that you can carry in your wallet. And this card has a 1-800 number and a PIN number on the front of it. And if I go into the hospital and my wife needs to get access to my advanced directive for healthcare, she can just call the 1-800 number on the front of this and they'll email that document to her. They'll email it directly into the hospital. That is of incredible value, because if you store those documents, let's say you put them in a safe in your house, or you put them in a safe deposit box, and you are traveling somewhere and you have an accident and you need medical care and you've got a family member that wants to take care of you, without access to those documents, which are, remember, in your safe or your safe deposit box, you're out of town, it's a weekend, they can't get access to them, maybe they're not on the signature card for your safe deposit box. That's going to be a very difficult situation, because that family member that you wanted to make medical decisions for you is not going to be able to do so until they find that document or a copy of it and are able to present that to the hospital. So DocuBank or some other similar type of service, there's several out there, is a great way for you to have access to those documents anytime you need them, 24/7. The next piece of advice I'd like to share with you is to put some thought into how your kids are going to handle things when you pass away. So we had a client who died recently, and she had asked someone to serve as the trustee who was not a family member, and then she had named her children as the beneficiaries of her plan. And that seemed like a great way to go. She had, a qualified person that was going to step in as the trustee. She did not feel like her kids were satisfactory to perform that role. The plan was fine. The problem was that she didn't communicate to her children what her intentions were and what it meant that this other person was serving as trustee. And so her children were not cooperative with the trustee when he tried to do his job. And what that meant was ultimately the trustee had to resign, because he could never get control over the assets in the trust. And there's just no way that a trustee can serve in a fiduciary capacity without control over the assets. The children had a misunderstanding about what was supposed to happen with the assets. They thought that, they were just theirs because mom had passed away. And that's not the way that the trust was set up. So it's important that you put some thought into how your kids are going to react to things, and that you communicate with them about what your plan is. The best plan won't work if nobody knows what it is. So it's really important to communicate with your family or your friends, whoever are your beneficiaries, whoever's serving in the roles of trustee, executor in your plan, that you communicate with them about what your intentions are and how you expect things to operate when you pass away. The last piece of advice I have for you today is really important, and that is make sure that you keep things up to date. So an estate plan is a lot like an automobile in that it needs consistent maintenance. You can have the best plan that was ever drafted, but if the law changes, all of a sudden your plan may not work the way that you intended it to. So one of the types of changes that would necessitate updating your plan would be changes in the law. And if you have a good estate planning attorney, they should be keeping you informed about changes in the law through their newsletter, their blog, YouTube, etc. The second reason that you might need to update your plan would be that somebody that you chose to serve in a particular role is no longer able to do so. So for example, if you chose your brother to serve as your trustee and he has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and is suffering with dementia, he's no longer going to be able to serve as your trustee. And so you would want to update your plan to name a different person to serve as trustee in that instance. And then the third reason that your plan needs to be consistently updated is that things change in your life. So your kids grow up, your kids get married, they may get divorced, hope not, but those are the kinds of things that happen, and your plan should be updated to reflect whatever your current circumstances are in your life, so that when you pass away, what you wanted to happen with your legacy is what happens. So that's it. 5 pieces of free advice from an estate planning attorney. I hope you've gotten a lot out of the tips that I gave you today. And if you need our help, just give us a call, click below, and we'll schedule a discovery call. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, then take a moment right now to subscribe by clicking below and turn on the bell notification so you get notified every time we post up a new video. Right now we're posting 3 videos a week with lots of information about various estate planning topics, so you're going to want to make sure to stay on top of that. Click below to subscribe and click right over here to watch the next most relevant video about estate planning. Go watch it now.